everybody, and welcome back to Gregtech New Horizons. How's your guys' day been? Good? Let me know down in the comments below. So last episode we set up the monazite line, and this thing has been doing very well. We are now producing zirconium, hafnium, samarium, and cerium. Now the only issue is we are not making a lot of cerium. We have about 1200 here, which is not that bad. But I'm assuming we're going to need a lot more of this now later on, so we might need to look into another way of making it. But for now, this is a good passive way of doing it. In terms of samarium, we have made over about 13,000 dust. We started with a 500, and I just requested like 100 EV motors, so a lot of the samarium dust is being used right now. But the fact we have like 13,000 dust from this system alone is incredible, and there's a lot more to come. Because the digester has run through all of the monazite that we have mined up on the moon. I need to go move the multi-block miners to get more. So there is a lot of the monazite sulfate dust left, which comes from our dissolution tank right there. So everything has been run through. The only thing that was bottlenecking us was the large chemical reactor right here. It used to take 52 seconds to process some of the dusts. I have since upgraded them with 2 IV tier energy hatches to increase the speed. So from 50, we basically cut off about 50-ish seconds from this process right here, which is actually speeding up everything now, which is actually really good. So hopefully this thing actually picks up some speed and we start getting through the backlog of the monazite sulfate here. So what's the plan for today? Well, it's time to do the Naquadah line. And Naquadah, very basic actually. There's only like a couple of machines, not as complicated as the monazite line. I thought it would be a lot more complicated. The only complicated part is going to be these 3 machines right here. These are neutron activators. I still need to make the controller and the energy hatch for it, but other than that, these things are not too complicated, but they look complicated and intimidating when I first looked at them anyway. So let's go ahead and actually see if we can get the controller made. And they are made inside a precise assembler. Now that is a big multi-block that looks like this. And we are going to need tier 2, which is Mark 1 casing. And I've already gone ahead and built this, and I've been actually using it quite a bit lately, which is right here. I've been moving some of the patterns from the single block assemblers up here into use this one here, which has actually increased the speed by a lot. So making like the SMD components for circuits, which used to take forever to craft, like in the single block ones, now only take like a minute or less than a minute to make. Like we do 160 in 2 seconds, and once all the ingredients go in, it actually increases in speed. Like we do 512 every 4 seconds, whereas before, to make this thing here, it was in even like the IV one, 2 seconds just for 32 of them. So we are making a lot more way faster, which is incredible. But yeah, so we need to use this thing now to make the neutron activator. So if we look up neutron here, I've already got, I think, most of the patterns set up for it, apart from the controller, it seems. So that is this pattern right here. So we're going to need high computation station Mark II, and we're going to need 2 of them, EV emitters, and this thing here, a neutron source. So if I look up uranium here, we're going to need this high density uranium. And I've already got all the patterns for that. So this is in a compressor with high density uranium nuggets. There is a recipe here with the electric composing compressor, but yeah, that requires molten neutronium, which we just do not have. So we have to use the compressor recipe. That requires wrapped uranium ingots, and they are made with tungsten carbide foil and uranium graphite mixture. So I have everything set up, and we're going to need 3 of these things because we're going to have 3 neutron activators, and they will export out into this chest right here. I'm currently making a lot more LUV motors, like I showed, and I am semi-automating this thing right here just to help. But next episode, I think we're going to set up proper automation for assembly lines because, yeah, we're going to start using them a lot more now once we get into LUV tier machines and start upgrading to ZPM. So hopefully that will craft a good few of them now. So up here then, we need to start by dividing everything up into different phases. I have bookmarked mostly everything we need. So here's all the chemicals we're going to need to actually begin. We're going to need fluoroantimonic acid and where is it? Ether and P507. So we're going to have to create those now as well. And that is done in these 4 chemical reactors here and these 2 chemical reactors right here. Now the cool thing is, which is actually really nice, all of the P507 and ether is 100% recycled. So we only need to craft a bit of it. So we don't have to have these things running all the time, which is amazing. So I'll just put the neutron activator pattern in here. And now if we look up the actual thing here, what are we missing? We're missing molten tungsten carbide, stainless steel, and some quantum eyes, and the computation station. All right, add a lot more of the patterns. Can we craft them now? No, we're missing engraved diamonds and the quantum eyes. And quantum eyes are actually going to be made in here. So I just need to change this back to radon and change the export here for Eyes of Ender. All right, and then for Eyes of Ender, I'm just going to request like 5,000 of them. All right, there we go. We're just missing the quantum eyes, which are being crafted right now. So we'll let those craft, and we're still waiting on all of the wrapped uranium to process as well. So let's start. So we want to start in the beginning by getting ourselves some ether. Ether is going to be sulfuric acid and ethanol on circuit 2. And it will provide us with a byproduct of diluted sulfuric acid. To get ethanol, you could combine steam and ethylene on circuit 24 in a chemical reactor, which could work, but there's an easier way of just getting it by like basically distilling wood vinegar. This here only produces a small amount, but I've been running this for a while now, and I have enough here for 8 large cells, and that is being made right here. So we have an industrial coke oven here, making charcoal and wood vinegar. That is being distilled in this distillation tower here, and that is making us acetic acid, methanol acetate, ethanol, acetone, and methanol. Probably not all of these are probably useful, but majority of them are. So it's probably a good idea to keep a good store or backlog of them, which is nice. So that has been running for a while, so we have plenty of this to begin. So back here we have 2 output hatches. Like we said, this one is going to be for ether and diluted sulfuric acid. I've already run the AE system cable under the ground here. So we've already got access to the network, which is nice. So we can just connect directly into the floor here. So we have input then. That is going to be for the ethanol. We only need a small amount. So let's give it 2 cells, and the rest of it will be used for making the P507. And then in the other input hatch, we need to provide sulfuric acid. So sulfuric acid, input, and then we said it was circuit 2. So in here, circuit 2, turn you on. And that now produces ether at 500 liters a tick. We need 1 bucket of it to actually make the antimony trichloride. But yeah, we should have plenty with all this here. So ether then needs to go over here. So this chemical reactor is going to make antimony trichloride solution. That requires chlorine, ether, and antimony dust. So we're going to need an export bus on the input bus connected up with the cable. So you export out antimony, acceleration cards, and then we're going to have 2 P2Ps right here. One is going to be for chlorine. We'll do the top one. And then we need to bind this one here, which is producing the ether. So change that to fluid, name it ether, and then bind that over here. There we go. So this should fill with ether, and we don't have chlorine. Oh, the output was turned off for some reason. So we should have chlorine in there now. And we do. So that is processed on circuit 1. So we'll give it that. Actually, we don't need to give a circuit in here. We can change that in the input bus. So turn you on. There we go. Antimony trichloride. That then exports automatically out into this chemical reactor, which needs to be combined with more chlorine. All right. And then turn this guy on. And I think he requires circuit 1 as well. Yes, he does. So you get circuit 1. Turn you on. Antimony pentachloride solution. That then needs to go through a distillation tower. And this is where you get your ether back, which is really nice. And that'll be done in this distillation tower right here. So we want to name the output here. So give me a P2P. And there's actually a really neat trick you can do. Instead of having to type out the entire name, if you grab the item, so we want the pentachloride solution, drag it down into your search bar and click, left click, and it'll paste the whole name in there. So you can do Control A, Control C, and then edit the name of your P2P, Control V. And there we go. We just pasted the whole name in. And now we can come over here and find it fairly easily. So fluid, get rid of the name, antimony pentachloride solution. Easy. So out here is where the ether comes from. So ether. And then up here we'll be outputting antimony pentachloride. All right. And then that pentachloride is going to go into this chemical reactor. So input hatch, this one here. This is going to be the, where is it now? Antimony pentachloride. And I think it also uses hydrofluoric acid. So hydrofluoric acid input. And I think we also get a byproduct then of hydrochloric acid. Nice. And I think this also requires circuit 1. Oh, I forgot to turn on the distillation tower. Wait. Oh, I forgot to provide these guys here with power. 1 second. All right. So if we turn it on now, there we go. Antimony pentachloride and 1 bucket of ether, which will go back into this chemical reactor right here to repeat the process. There we go. That guy turned on. That auto outputs into this input hatch here. So antimony pentafluoride. That needs to combine then with hydrofluoric acid. Okay. And then we will finally be outputting the fluoroantimonic acid. All right. There we go. That is phase 1. I think this also requires circuit 1. There we go. Fluoroantimonic acid. 42 seconds. Might need to upgrade this guy here with an energy hatch. Yeah, let me upgrade him quickly. Actually, I don't want to waste any fluid. Let me wait for him to finish. All right, there we go. Now it only takes 2.6 seconds. So it's running at LUV power, which is great. And these guys here are running perfectly fine. This one here did actually clog up with hydrochloric acid, so I have to turn on overflow down below, but that's fine. Right, so phase 2. Starting to process some of the Naquadah oxide. So all the fluoroantimonic acid has to go into the input hatch on the back of this EBF. So that will connect right here. Fluoroantimonic acid. There we go. And then we need some export buses and interfaces. So export bus have an interface. Import bus will have an export bus. You are going to have Naquadah oxide with some acceleration card upgrades. And then the output right here is going to be low quality Naquadah emulsion. All right, so that is in there. And can't remember, does this require a circuit? Yes, it does. Circuit 1. So turn you on. There we go. So we're also going to get a byproduct of some titanium trifluoride dust. That's going to go over here into this back corner. So this on circuit 1 with some hydrogen, he is going to make us hot titanium. That is loud. There we go. So that will also produce a byproduct of some hydrofluoric acid, which can be used over there. Now, the low quality Naquadah emulsion, that has to go into a centrifuge with sodium hydroxide, which is this guy right here. So that plus export and interface. So the input is going to be the low quality. There we go. This one, sodium hydroxide, circuit 1. And this thing requires 10 buckets to run. And luckily there's already 32 in there, so we should be fine. And we're going to get ourselves back some antimony and some gallium hydroxide, which we have to combine with sodium to get the gallium. And it also gives some sodium hydroxide, which we can electrolyze back into oxygen and hydrogen and the sodium. So we can always do that later on if we need to. The output then is going to be the low quality Naquadah solution. That solution then needs to go into another chemical reactor, and this time with the P507, which still needs to be made. So that will go in here. So input hatch is going to be for this one. The output hatch is going to be for the Naquadah adamantium solution. And we're also going to be producing some fluorine-rich waste. That fluorine-rich waste then needs to go into another chemical reactor with some quicklime. That will make us fluorspar and some waste liquid, which we can distill back into hydrochloric acid, salt water, phenol, and chrome. And that will be done in that distillation tower right there. So the fluorine-rich waste will go into this chemical reactor. So that and that. And then the input then is going to be for the quicklime. All right, so that is this one set up then. So we need to get ourselves the P507. So back a page here. The P507 is made in a chemical reactor with sodium, 2-ethyl-1-hexanol, phosphoric acid, and ethanol. So the 2-ethyl-1-hexanol requires hydrogen, seed oil, and a copper plate as a catalyst. So I'm actually going to batch craft a bunch of this by hand. So let me just grab out some cells here. Go down below. First, grab some hydrogen. And as for the seed oil, I have a full tank of it here, but I am currently making that by producing rape. And that is growing in our void dimension. And that is how we're going to be getting our seed oil from now on. And it's actually good to have this going fairly early, because seed oil is going to be used later on in a bunch of different recipes for bees. A lot of it here for like the impregnated sticks. I think some of it, wow, there's a lot of stick recipes. The impregnated casings and the scented paneling, which is all the impregnated sticks. Yeah, there is a lot of seed oil as used in this recipe here. And all of this is used for making the alveary, which is basically the multi-block for the bees. So as you can see, there's going to be a lot of stuff we're going to have to do with bees. And I really want to start bees fairly soon. So I can't wait to look into that. But anyway, so I think I actually did that backwards. I think it's more hydrogen than seed oil. And we'll just do this temporarily up in this chemical reactor here. So we just need a copper plate. This one will do. And get rid of the nano circuits. We'll just store them in here for the time being. So copper plate, hydrogen, and seed oil. And there we go. We have our 2-ethyl-1-hexanol. All right, so we have 6 cells of the 2-ethyl-hexanol, and now we are inputting in the phosphoric acid. The input bus right here is for the sodium. So export sodium. There we go. So we'll put the ethyl-hexanol in here, and then we'll put the ethanol up here and turn it on. Does this require a circuit number? Nope. So should just turn on. There we go. P507. 60 seconds each. Wow, this is going to take a while. Luckily, it's all fully recycled, so we don't have to keep this thing running for too long. So next up then is the actual neutron controller. Have we made all of the wrapped uranium? There is... Yep, that's all of it in here now. So we just need to throw this through the implosion compressor, grab out the high density uranium, and stick it into the ME system somehow. I think there's an interface down here, yes. All right, and that should automatically go over here now into the compressor, which it did. And yeah, I think we're pretty much ready to go now. So let's look at the actual power source, the actual neutron accelerator. We're going to need 3 of these things here. So what are we missing to make these? Magnetic steel and double tungsten carbide. Okay. All right. It says we have everything for it now. So start. Now we'll have to swap a few settings in here now, because this guy here on normal mode just works like a normal assembling machine. But some of the recipes in here require a precise assembler. So we'll have to change some settings in here now in a second, depending on what stage of the craft we're in. It says crafting all 3. I don't see the recipe. Which one of these do I have this in again? Okay, I found it. It's down in disassembling machine here. But it seems like it's still making some of the wrapped uranium. I thought we had it all. 8 more in here. Oh, it's still crafting a few. Okay, now all of it's done. Or not. I'm missing a few. Okay, yeah, something is definitely wrong. Maybe me sorting the chest accidentally voided the items. It's kind of a bit disappointing if it did. So let me try and request it again. Oh no, they're all in the system here. Okay. Oh, I see. Because I put those 3 that we had automatically directly into the singularity compressor, it didn't actually think the system made it. Okay, now we have all of them. Okay, cool. So now we should be able to request the neutron activator itself. We're still missing quantum eyes. Oh, right. I forgot to empty the water out of this thing. There we go. All right. The recipe's at the point now where I need to switch to precise mode. And it turns out, even though we had 2 IV tier energy hatches here, the recipe still called for LUV tier power. That makes no sense. So I had to upgrade it to 2 LUV tier energy hatches to see if this works. It should work. Yeah, there we go. So now we're making the high computation station Mark II, and we need 6 of them. And I'm also noticing something else. For some reason, the liquid is just not entering into the input hatch. I was noticing that before, and I was trying to use ender fluid conduits here, and it worked for some times, but then it just didn't. And then I swapped it out with super tanks. So there's a pump on the bottom to pull the fluid out of the ingredient buffer into the tank. And then the tank is set to auto fluid output into the quadruple input hatch. But for some reason, sometimes it just didn't work. It seems to have worked there now, so that's good. So recipe's done, and we should have now our neutron activators. Yeah, there we go. So for these guys to work, we're going to need some covers, the controller covers to be precise. Come over here now, and we have to regulate how much neutron power we give this thing. So for each recipe in here, for example, the Naquadah adamantium solution requires a minimum neutron kinetic energy of 200 million and be maximum of 230 million. So we want to pick somewhere in the middle of this. So that would be 215 million. And then other fluids, say for like the low quality, or is it the rich solution? Yeah, the rich one here needs a neutron kinetic energy of 1050 million. So yeah, we need to control that. Otherwise, it'll just constantly keep going up and up and up and up and up and up. I don't even know how high it goes, but I don't know if anything bad happens when that happens. So I would rather make sure it is monitored at a certain level. So we want to point these down because we have to provide these guys here with IV tier energy. And each one of these neutron sensors, then we want to point into the accelerator. Then on the side, pointing into the neutron sensor from the accelerator, we want to add a machine controller cover. So we only want this thing to generate kinetic energy when it has a redstone signal. So for this one here, we need 215 million. So we want to change this to inverted, and then we want to set this to 215 and an M for million. And then this thing here will start charging up until it reaches the threshold we just told it to. So if we come to the front here now, add the controller and come underneath here now, grab out some superconductor cable, and connect the power to it now. Right, the structure should form. Yep, has problems. So, oh, we don't have maintenance hatches on this. We'll stick them up here. All right, wait for the structure to reform. Do the maintenance. Yeah, this is very like slow for some reason. It should have updated by now. There we go. Now it updated and now it's running fine. So now you can see, because it has power, you can see the neutron kinetic energy is rising. Now let's finish off the part back here where we're making ourselves the P507. That needs to go into this hatch right here. But I actually want to change that to a ULV energy hatch. Mainly because since we're going to be recycling a lot of the fluid and the P507 is actually used in a few places, I don't want all of it getting stuck in one energy or one fluid hatch. So I want to replace this one with the lowest tier. So the ULV one can only handle 8 buckets. So we should be able to fill this hatch and then the overflow will go to anywhere else we need it. So if we enable this one to the P507, that should go in there. Yep. And if we turn this thing on now, doesn't need a circuit, does it? Yes, it needs circuit 1. Or is that the wrong one I'm looking at? No, it doesn't need a circuit. I was looking at a different recipe. So turn you on. No recipe found. Why is that? Oh, I never turned on the centrifuge. There we go. And actually, I want to turn you off first because I'm trying to follow the quest book as well by gathering the fluids as I go. So this one here is producing the low quality Naquadah solution. So I want to grab some of that. That should come out here and enter into here. Is this a long recipe? 22 seconds. Okay, just finished one. So there we go. So I want to take a cell of that. That should complete this quest. Yep. Next up then is the hexanol. So I just want to grab some of that. There we go. Put that back in. And then we can put this back in here as well. And then the P507, put that in there. Okay, cool. Now we can turn this guy on. What? How are you still not ready? You've got yourself your P507 and the... Oh, wait, does this... Oh, it's 36 buckets to actually run. Oh, if that's the case, then this is going to require a bigger hatch. This is an MV. It only supports 32 buckets. So a HV hatch can handle 64 buckets. So that should be fine. There we go. Now it turned on. And now we're getting our fluorine-rich waste, which we said goes in here. So we should see this guy turn on then, once the recipe's done. Oh, this is a 200-second recipe. Okay, I am going to have to upgrade you as well. Okay, upgraded to 2 IV tier energy hatches. Not enough fluid output space. Oh yeah, because it makes a full 30 buckets of it. So this then, the Naquadah adamantium solution. Do I need to grab a cell of that for the quest? Yes, I do. So output hatch. Which one did it go into? This one here. Wait, no. Yes, this one. Wait, is there only one output? Oh, the fluorine-rich waste already went off. Okay, there we go. So yeah, this one here. Actually, might as well lock the fluids just in case. And grab 1 cell of that. There we go. Now we can put it back. And now this needs to go into the neutron activator. So input hatch goes here. So yeah, the other thing about this thing here, the inputs have to go in the top and then the outputs are on the bottom. So Naquadah adamantium solution, that should all go in here. Yep. And this guy should turn on. Yep, there we go. Ooh, listen to that. That sounds cool. All right, so this takes 5 seconds each, and we're going to be getting ourselves our Naquadah-rich solution, which needs to go into an autoclave with sodium hydroxide, and we get back our P507. And then in here, we're getting ourselves a bunch of different materials. It's concentrated Naquadah sludge. This needs to go into another neutron activator, and it gives us a bunch of stuff. Look at how much stuff we get. Like for 16 dust, we get like 4 stacks, nearly 5 stacks of stuff nearly. Crazy. All right, so this then we want to send into the ME system. So we'll use a ME interface here. And the fluid is going to go into a P2P tunnel. And we probably need a cell of this as well. Oh, that's all of it then. And then the fluorine-rich waste we can just grab. Right, so we said the Naquadah-rich solution goes into the autoclave, which is right here. So we'll have the input there, and we'll also get back to P507. So that will export out here. So we just need some cable. Connect everything up here, and we also need to import in the sodium hydroxide, and we're going to have an item output which will go at the top. All right, so that's making that there. So we want to auto item output out the top, and then we'll just stick a pump on the right there to send back the P507. Now there's only one place for it to go, and that bus is now full. So until we add the extra bus, this guy here is going to fill up. But he has plenty of inventory buffer, so we should be fine. So the item that's coming out of that now is naquadahine. Now we could further process down into Naquadah, but there's no point. if we need Naquadah, we can actually just turn it into hot Naquadah ingots and get some CO2 as a byproduct, which will just void. But it's actually cheaper to use naquadahine in making the Naquadah dopes silicon boules. So it's actually way cheaper in terms of energy, because this one here is 18 seconds, but if I was to use the actual ingot, it's 800 seconds. So way cheaper to use the dust. So now the output out of this one here goes into here, and that is the concentrated stuff. So this then we need to insert in. So do we have enough channels here for it? It's hard to see now since we're using regular covered cable, but you can visualize it with the network tool. We have 6 channels being used, so we have enough here for one more. So we want to export out the concentrated enriched Naquadah. So that will go in here, and that will turn this guy on once we turn it on. And yes, this one requires between like about 470 kinetic energy. So that's running there now, and we're getting all these dust. So the enriched Naquadah sulfate, that can be electrolyzed. So this, we are going to electrolyze over in this electrolyzer here. I need to add some import buses onto this thing. And since there's going to be multiple items going into this guy, we're just going to stick a interface with a conveyor belt so we can have multiple items. So import, interface, connect to some cable, and the P2P here is for oxygen. All right, so you go in there. All right, so the output should go into the ME system now. There we go. And the one item out of there then, which is going to be the low quality Naquadah sulfate, that's going to go into another chemical reactor with P507 and water. That is done over in this chemical reactor. So on the back right here, we have a reservoir hatch for water, input hatch here for the P507, export bus, and then we're going to get out a fluid, and that fluid will have to be distilled in the distillery right here. We're also going to get an item output, and we have our ME cable under the ground right here, so we can just run this up. So you are going to have the low quality Naquadah, and you are going to be P507. There we go, 32 buckets of it. Oh, I should have turned that into an ULV one. It should be fine. The fact that it filled is fine, and there's 4 buckets left over in here, so this one's okay. So turn this on. What? Oh, I never connect up the power cable. My bad. Well, we just voided some fluids. I thought I had the power already connected, but there we go. Low quality Naquadah sulfate, and that outputted right here. So that will insert right here. Yep, there it is. And does it need a circuit number? Nope. So turn you on. Oh, there probably isn't enough fluid in there yet. It needs 7 buckets to run. Yeah, we're kind of reliant on this guy here. What are we out of to keep this guy running? You're full. You have the P507. The adamantium solution is not exporting. Device online. Missing channel. Oh, you know why? I think under here. Yeah, we're also sharing the same cable with these guys here. Okay, hang on. I can fix that quickly. Just need to use a dense cable. Actually, I can just run the cable to there and then keep this cable here. And if we use our network visualization tool, we can see that there is no channels. It's probably taking a while to update. Yeah, 7. There we go. So we have enough space for one more connection. Oh, actually, no, we need to remove this cable here. Now, if we look at it again, we should see less, right? Or maybe it is only 7. Yeah, would have updated by now. Okay, we're good. So we should see that build up over here now once it makes the dust. And did this guy run? No, but we can set up the P2Ps for it. So from the distillation tower, we're going to get an Naquadah rich solution. That needs to go into the other nutrient activator. So this guy right here. And I think we're going to have to run a... Actually, we said we have enough room for one more connection here. And this one here is the... I'm guessing that's 1,700,000,000 or 1,075,000,000. I'm not sure. But that should go in here once this guy here made enough. It should have already went in. Okay, there we go. It's in here now. So it actually is working. And how much of this does it need to run? It needs 9 buckets to do one operation. Okay. So one of the other byproducts we get is a dust, which is this guy here. He needs to go through another chemical reactor with sulfuric acid and P507. And that is done in the one next to it here. So input hatch is going to be for P507. Other input hatch then is for the sulfuric acid. All right. So they should go in there now. The item that needs to go in there then is this one here. So export, you might need some cable anchors here. And then we also get 2 item outputs as well. We get tritium sulfate and Naquadah oxide mixture, which goes right back to the start to begin the whole process all over again. The tritium sulfate goes into this chemical reactor right here. So input bus here, you are going to be tritium sulfate. That then needs to be combined with hydrogen to make regular tritium. And that gives us back some sulfuric acid as a byproduct. So we turn you on. There we go. So we get tritium sulfate, the oxide mixture, and enriched Naquadah rich solution. And that needs to go through the other autoclave I had. All right. So that should be all set up then. So items like the other one is going to be output out the top. And then the automatic fluid output with a pump to the left into this one here, P507. All right, and then the concentrated Naquadah sludge goes back into the nutrient activator to repeat its process. Yeah, and off it goes already. So I think that is more or less everything. Is there anything else I forgot? Oh yes, this whole radioactive sludge part. Okay, that is, I think, the final thing. Apart from this guy here, I need to connect up the outputs for this guy. This one is the waste liquid processing. So all the enriched Naquadah sulfate dust to be sent through the electrolyzer now needs to go through an EBF on circuit 16 with hydrofluoric acid. And that is done in this one right here. So P2P, fluid input, you are going to be the hydrofluoric acid. And then the output here is going to be acid Naquadah emulsion. So if we turn this on, turn you off because that is loud. Oh, it's a 45-second recipe. My ears are going to bleed after this. But anyway, so when that's done, the acid Naquadah emulsion is going to go into this chemical reactor then. So for this one, we're going to need some quicklime. That has to be done on circuit 3. The input, then we said, was for the acid. So input here, acidic Naquadah emulsion. And then the output then for that is going to be the Naquadah emulsion. So it's actually the next day and I was editing the video after I finished recording. And it turns out I messed up some of the locations and names of the fluids. So I'm going to try and explain it again correctly. So the acid Naquadah emulsion that comes out of the EBF over there goes into this LCR right here. And that will make us Naquadah emulsion. That Naquadah emulsion then needs to go into another centrifuge, and that will give us Naquadah solution and a bunch of different radioactive sludge. That Naquadah solution then needs to go into a distillation tower, and that will just give a bunch of different random Naquadah fluids that I don't know if we actually need. Some of them here can be like steam cracked and distilled further down, so maybe we'll do that in the future. But then all of the radioactive sludge that we get from processing the Naquadah or the enriched Naquadah dust goes into this centrifuge right here. And all of the byproducts that we get from the radioactive sludge after centrifuging is some calcium, Naquadah dust, tiberium, plutonium-239, uranium-238, and some radon. So I hope that explains it a little bit better, because I was messing up. I was putting the emulsion inside the distillation tower and putting the solution in the centrifuge where it was actually the other way around. So yeah, that's more or less it then. So I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and hit the notification bell when you're added then as well. So without any further ado, goodbye.